In closed session, we discussed collective bargaining, planning, and preparation with PGTA for 2020-2021. We discussed collective bargaining, planning, and preparation with CSEA for 2020-2021. We had a conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation, and we briefly discussed superintendent goals and evaluations, and we agreed to continue closed session at the conclusion of this meeting, conclusion of open session. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ms. Dawson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will start with a presentation from Dr. Hagquist.
Hi, everybody. Larry Hagquist here from Pacific Grove High School. And I'm just here to present my leadership team, my leadership students who wanted to share with you the work that they have done related to the welcoming committee. This is a task that we identified a need that was presented early this year by the counseling department under the COVID restrictions and the shelter in place. We had new students coming to our school that some of whom had never seen the campus. And really, we wanted to create a welcoming atmosphere for them. So I'm going to hand it over to Gabby Geraldo, who's going to share with you what her welcoming committee has done throughout the year. Our ASB president, Miss Gabby Geraldo.
All right, thank you for that introduction, Mr. Hagquist. Just give me a moment here and I will share my screen. Can everyone see the presentation here?
Yes.
Great.
All right. So I think Mr. Hagquist has given a sufficient introduction here, but here we have our overview of the welcoming committee and what we've done so far this school year. It will be presented by myself, freshman vice president Kennedy Biondi, sophomore class president Nima. We have junior class president Lupita and myself.
Okay, hello, my name is Kenny Biondi and I'm the freshman class vice president. And what we did for our welcoming committee was we sent out emails to new students and just like pretty much most of the freshman class, but mainly new students, just to ask them if they had any questions and how they're doing, if they were enjoying the school online. And with the responses we got, they were all very positive. Everyone was enjoying it. They said that the teachers and their peers were very helpful and inclusive with all the activities we did. We also sent some emails out just a few weeks ago just to check in with going into hybrid schedule and if they had any questions about it. And we also got a lot of positive responses and that they liked being able to meet people in person. Also throughout the year, we put many Google Forms together that had icebreakers on them, and we put it on our Google Classroom. And we had a lot of responses, so it was kind of nice for them to to like see other people's responses and see what other people liked. And so we've done that throughout the year. And we also put together gift baskets and delivered them to some of the new freshmen at the PG. So that is what our class did for welcoming students.
Hi, I'm Nima Shady. I'm the sophomore class president. And what we did is that we also sent welcoming emails to all the new students in our grade to welcome them to the district and our school. And we also invited them to a Zoom call so they can meet us as a sophomore class, so they would be familiar with some people. And we also sent gift baskets as the leadership class as a whole, and including the sophomores, and they all really liked them. And this is one of the students that had got one of the gift baskets is Maya. She really liked it, and I've also personally met her because she's in my math class.
Hi, I'm Lupita Alvarado, a junior class president. As for the junior class, we started off the year by sending out welcome emails to all the new students in our class. We also participated in the making and delivering of welcome bags to all the new students. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We also hosted an outdoor socially distanced movie night at Hilltop Park, welcoming all the whole junior class. The junior parents. I'm so sorry. The junior parents organized a snack pack pickup for our class that we helped them advertise for. In February, we planned and put on a Valentine Grand fundraiser that was open for the whole school. Earlier this month, we did an Easter egg scavenger hunt, which consisted of hiding eggs all around Pacific Grove and posting clues on the non-official school Instagram. Most recently, we organized a dine-in at Lucy's on Lighthouse for our class, where we raised money for a potential prom later this year. This is a picture from our outdoor socially distanced movie night that we hosted earlier this school year. Here is a picture of a new junior, Allison, who received a welcoming gift bag at the start of the year. We asked her if she could give a statement about her time here as a new student. These are the questions we asked. Did you feel welcomed and informed about all the new events at Pacific Grove High School? This was her response. Yes, totally, indeed. The first few weeks of moving to Pacific Grove, I received a welcome gift. During my time as a student at Pacific Grove, I have been informed of most extracurricular activities such as movie night and Valentine Grand fundraiser. Here are some pictures from our Easter egg scavenger hunt we organized and put on earlier this month. You can see pictures of all the students who participated and won prizes for finding the eggs. There are also some pictures of the clues that we posted on our non-official Instagram.
Here we have some of the activities for the senior class. A lot of them may be a little bit of repeats because we did a few similar things as the other grades did. For example, we also sent individual welcome emails to each new student, as well as participating in the personal gift bag drop-off that all new students across all grades at PGHS received. We also have done 2 senior class parking lot decorations, actually. Some of you may or may not know, but every year the senior class, in the fall before we're on campus and before we start, we have a parking lot decoration for seniors to claim and decorate their new spots. Of course, we weren't really able to do that at the beginning of this year, but we still held this as to boost morale. And we did it again right before we went to hybrid learning. So those are both very successful. We've also had 2 drive-in movie nights sponsored by the senior parent group at the Monterey County Fairgrounds. And finally, we've also had the breakfast burrito drive-through before finals week. So here we have some pictures from our first senior parking lot decoration this fall. As you can see on the right, we have valedictorian Caroline Cohn's beautifully decorated parking spot, as well as on the left, our senior class president, Molly Malmberger, painting her spot right here as well. For our gift bag drop off, actually myself and ASB Vice President Lindsay Nantero and I personally dropped off this bag and took this picture as well. But here's one of my classmates, senior Benjamin Schultz, smiling with his personally delivered gift bag. We also touched base with Ben to follow up with him and see how he was feeling at PGHS, and this is what he said. The teachers and staff have done a wonderful job welcoming me to the school, and I'm grateful for all they've helped me with over the past year. The kids are friendly, and it seems like a great school to attend on campus. Here we have a few other events that have been put on for the whole school. On April 2nd, there is a PTA sponsored drive-in movie, also at the Monterey County Fairgrounds. So we have a few pictures here of the students who attended the event, but I think the real highlight here was being able to get Billy the Breaker, whole wave suit and all, out to the Monterey County Fairgrounds, and he's dancing here to entertain the students for a little bit before they begin the showing with Spider-Man Homecoming. Also, Breaker Buddies has been a staple every year before the school year starts. Unfortunately, this year in August, we were unable to do that due to COVID restrictions, so it was entirely on Zoom. But so we didn't have new students and freshmen wandering around the hallways looking lost when hybrid started. We were able to split up Breaker Buddies across 2 days in order to follow COVID restrictions. So these are from different days of the Breaker Buddies orientation. So here we have the freshmen new students waiting in Pride Place, ready to be split up into their own groups with leadership students as their group leaders to show them a campus tour. Thank you for your time. And even though we still have a little bit more of this year left, I'm hoping that the new students can continue to make new friends and enjoy their time here at PGHS. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Giraldo. That is a terrific presentation of, and really thank you all for speaking tonight and telling us the activities that brought other children into our, other students into our high school. Thank you very much. Brian, any comments?
Yeah. First of all, props to Dr. Hagwist for pulling everyone together. I think you're an inspiration to all the students, and to the students, and I wrote down some names, and I think I'm doubling up here, but obviously Gabriella, Guadalupe, Nima, Lupita, Nima, I think I have everybody here. You're just an absolute inspiration over the course of an impossibly difficult year. And knowing that you were able to and persisted in reaching out to the students across the district, I'm just dumbfounded by your efforts. So thank you for that. And I'm going to stop because I have to stop. Otherwise, I'll start to get too emotional. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. That was a wonderful way to start this meeting. Mr. Hagwist, you must be so proud of all of your students, especially the ones who spoke tonight. I hope the wonderful warm vibe continues throughout the rest of the meeting, because it's just a fantastic way to start. And to Lupe or Guadalupe, I used to get giggle fits in school, and I used to not be able to stop and would be asked to leave the classroom. So I understand where you're coming from. I had to turn my camera off because it was infectious to me too. But I really appreciate you speaking up tonight, as well as the rest of your fellow students. So thank you so much, all of you.
Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, Lupita, good work pulling it back in. I was very excited to see that. And the rest of you, I taught many of these kids in the middle school, so it's great to see them and to see them assume leadership roles. And I want to echo what's been previously said. It's so nice during COVID when kids are distanced and don't feel a connection like you want, and that you guys went on every level with Kennedy all the way up and went out and reached out and really pulled those students in and gave them a sense of belonging. And it's extremely meaningful. You guys did a great job. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dawson. Larry, anything else you'd like to add before I open up to a public comment?
He's waving no.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, team. I did get a text from Lupita saying, I am so sorry. You know, it's nerve-wracking speaking in front of everybody. That did not happen during the run through this morning. But
But it didn't.
it's a wonderful experience, and just very proud of my team.
Very good.
As well you should be. I'll open up to public comment for a moment or two here. Mr. Garcia.
Looks frozen.
He's trying to unmute.
There we go. Thank you. I too am very proud of our students and Dr. Hagquist, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to acknowledge Dr. Hadquist. Today I received information that he has received the Educator for the Cleese Noble Educator of Distinction Award today. And I'd like to read a brief statement from the information related to this award. Dr. Hadquist, an educator at PG High, was recently selected as the Cleese Noble Educator of Distinction by the National Honor Society of High School Scholars, a role model to pupils. Dr. Hadquist was nominated by a student for outstanding dedication and commitment to excellence in the profession. Each year, student members of NSHSS are invited to nominate the educator who made the most significant contribution to their academic career for the Cleese Noble Educator of Distinction Award. This honor recognizes exemplary educators whose passion and devotion inspire their students to grow and develop as scholars, leaders, and citizens. So I think the timing of this presentation is just wonderful. It just shows the dedication that Dr. Hadquist is providing to all of our students, and it was clearly demonstrated tonight by their presentations and the hard work of our students this school year on behalf of our freshmen and all of our new students. So congratulations, Dr. Hadquist. Congratulations to our leadership team.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, and congratulations are indeed in order. Dr. Hadquist, congratulations. And again, thank you for bringing that group forward to present tonight. And really, that's a fantastic thing. I'm with Brian. It's really very cool that you guys actually reached out to try and get that going so early. So thank you. With that, we will move on to written communication. We had multiple letters this week. We had a letter from a parent regarding COVID funds, letter from a teacher on critical issues forum and anti-harassment of people of Asian descent, the resolution therein. Letters from multiple parents in support of the senior parent group and senior activities, and I appreciate the senior parent group. Thank you all for your work. Letter from parent asking to keep meetings on Zoom and in support of the anti-harassment resolution. Letters from parents, multiple parents thanking the district for opening the opportunities their children are enjoying. One which was just very funny. I mean, talking about how nice the opening was for their son. So follow-up letter from Diversify Our Narrative, letter and a follow-up letter from parents on opening further to 5 days a week, and a letter with questions on AB 104 and graduation requirements. So with that, we will move on to board member comments. I think I'm on Ms. Swanson.
Thank you, John. I had the same list of written communications, so you covered those as fully as I would have done, so I don't have any more of those to add. I attended an equity seminar put on by MCOE, the Monterey County Office of Education. And this is a series they do. This is the third one I've attended. This one was about equitable early care and education, planting the seeds for change. I really enjoyed these seminars. They're on a Saturday morning. And the guest speaker gave some examples of how each child comes from their own culture, comes from their own backgrounds, and that schools and the people that work inside schools are actually guests in the community. And I thought that was a fantastic point. And so that we are all guests in the community, the folks who work inside schools, and so that we will be sure to respect the culture and kind of each child's individual background. And it was a great seminar. So I wanted to report out on that. And then the last thing I have is I had 2 moms reach out who it's such an example, I think, of like, when you see something, just say something, bring it up to the district. They noticed that there weren't any crossing guards when school started back up, and there was so many details going into that reopening, but they noticed that there weren't crossing guards, and so they said something, and once they brought it to the attention of the district, staff was able to assemble a group of volunteers to fill those positions until the end of the school year. So I wanted to acknowledge that and just really thank parents in general and community members for reaching out and communicating to us, because I think it's fantastic, and I think that's how we all thrive and we keep everybody safe and healthy and educated. And those are my comments for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, I want to thank Dr. Hadquist for bringing students. It's so nice to see young people, because even though everything's about the school system, we just don't see them enough, especially with this year of COVID. And the other thing I wanted to say was how excited I was to get the note from Mr. Garcia regarding graduation coming back, and that there's going to be a little more normalcy and more will be determined. But it's again hopeful as we move through this pandemic, and I love to see anything that smacks of normal in front of us. So thank you, and again a big thank you to the kids.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, President Paff. Just I want to acknowledge all the leaders in the district and all the teachers. I'm back in Minnesota this week, and for me, as I think about this, one of the first things that I did when I planned this trip, aside from letting my parents know that I was going to be staying in their home for a week, was to reach out to a couple of high school teachers that I had. Yeah, my parents were surprised. They're like, really, you don't want a hotel? But to reach out to a couple of high school teachers that I had that I've remained in contact with for, God, I graduated in 1981, so 40 years ago, right? Who were so impactful. And I know so many of you out there, whether you're teachers or a part of the administration or working within the district, were impactful. To thank you for the difference that you are making today in so many students' lives, and don't lose sight of that you are making a difference that will carry on for decades and decades. I still keep in touch with these people because they made a huge impact on my life, to the point that 40 years later, I let them know when I'm in town. So thank you for that. I really appreciate all that you do and all that you bring. That's all.
Thank you, Brian. Two other items, just in general, a lot of questions are coming in. What's going to happen in the fall? And I'd like to kind of upfront comment on that. One is, there's a mandate that ends on June 30th that says that we are required to run distance learning, and that mandate ends. And the plan for PG until such time as we're told otherwise is we will be open, fully. That has lots of complications, and these discussions are starting already. Certainly they've been in place now, and every time you see a certified or a classified job description, those are, to continue on. But those plans are moving forward. If you'd like a real say in that, I suggest you contact our representative or state senator. That's Mark Stone and John Laird. Whichever way you fall on the line, those are the people going to make those decisions. We will follow the law. The next question that has come up multiple times in general is on Zoom, and do we plan on continuing? And yes, the answer is yes. We plan on continuing broadcasting in a manner that is to be determined, because we don't know how we're going to get there perfectly yet. But the plan is in place. I shouldn't say that. We have a plan, but as plans are, they're never perfect. So we have a plan, we'll put it in place, see what has to make changes. The equipment's on order. And I fully believe that before the end of this year, we will have at least one more meeting where we are in the DO ready to rock and roll. So with that, Dr. Porras, Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it short. A lot of what I was going to announce has actually been announced by others, so I won't continue repeating those. I do want to just make mention of one thing other than what I'll say in the COVID report. Want to make an acknowledgement, and I think it was timely, Mr. President, that you mentioned speaking to your legislature, because right now that is just a critical piece of what we're seeing happening in the state. Literally, laws are being proposed, bills are being proposed almost daily. And some of them are growing legs and others are not. And a big part of that has been how much feedback individual legislators are getting from their community members. And so I would echo what you suggested, that folks should definitely make contact with our local legislators to comment on any way, shape, or form about concerns with what's happening with COVID, with education, what we want to see in the near future. It is really making an impact right now. And we're really fortunate, and I don't say this just because she's one of my teammates, but it's really true. Principal and Director Barbara Martinez is one of the chief people right now for AXA in the state level that are making contact directly with legislators almost daily. She's doing it on her own time in the evenings and on the weekends, even during the week, and it is making a tremendous difference. And I think it's great that we have someone here in our own small town that is making a big difference across the state. And I think she deserves the acknowledgement for sure, because, how often do you get to see that happen and have an input in what's happening with our students' educations? So I want to acknowledge her and the work that she's doing, because it has made a difference. We've seen some of the effect already statewide. Principal Martinez, thank you for the work that you're doing. I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that and share that with the group. And other than that, Mr. President, I'll defer till later.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. With that, we'll move to PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the staff wishing to discuss non-agenda items? Starting with Mrs. Gordon.
Well, hello, esteemed board members and President Paff. I just would like to speak for just a moment on the letter that I was the staff member that wrote the letter about the CIF and the anti-Asian discrimination resolution. And I have to admit that I was a little bit disappointed at the last meeting that the board was not able to pass that resolution unanimously. But I would like to commend you for putting it back on the agenda. And I know a couple of you, Brian and Carolyn Swanson, have each of you have volunteered to rewrite that so it fits for our district. What I would like to say is that I've taught social justice for years, and I completely understand that white people don't like it's a difficult, racism is a difficult thing to talk about, and especially because we don't like to hear that we are part of the problem. Our immediate defense is, but I'm not racist. And I have felt that in the past, and so I completely understand that sentiment, but that statement is beside the point. The fact is that white supremacy, in which white people enjoy privileges that people of color do not, that we live in our country right now. And when white people fail to speak out against that system, then we do indeed perpetuate that system, which is by definition racist. We all need to do a bit more to speak out and act against discrimination and violence against people of color in all its forms. And with all due respect, a sign in my classroom that says this is a safe space for everyone just isn't quite enough, because it's like saying in response to Black Lives Matter that, well, all lives matter. Which again misses the point, because clearly, as we've seen time and again, in reality, white lives matter more than Black lives, or more than lives of people of color in our current society. And yet the types of discrimination that different groups experience is different. The types of discrimination that were described in that resolution that Asian Americans are experiencing right now, as a result of COVID-19 and some of the things that political leaders have said, has made some students fearful of coming back to school. And so I think it is appropriate that we identify and speak to that specific type of discrimination. I understand that it's difficult and uncomfortable for white people to talk about it and our own collusion in a racist system, but our discomfort pales in comparison to the trauma and grief that white supremacy has rained down on people of color for years. And may I remind this audience that our community of Pacific Grove has our own particular stain of anti-Asian discrimination on our history. There was a Chinese farming village that existed on our shores, and in 1906, it mysteriously was burned down. And the Chinese were not allowed to rebuild their community by the white community that lived here. And so I really think it's time, it's way past time that we do speak up a little bit louder for our Asian American friends, family, and peers. And what I would like to ask of the board is not only to adopt the resolution or the revised resolution, but to solicit the input and the feedback, if not the assistance, of our Asian American colleagues within our own district, several of whom are in this meeting tonight. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gordon.
Mhm.
Ms. Martinez.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Barbara Martinez, Principal Director, Pacific Grove Adult School and Safety. I've just got a few announcements, and so I'm going to make each one as brief as I can, but they're all really important as well. And I want to thank Dr. Porras for that recognition at the beginning of the meeting. I just want you to know, usually we bring close to 400 school administrators and partners statewide to descend on the Capitol for Legislative Action Day. And this year we had over 650 because we could Zoom. And just in our little county of, just our region of Monterey, we had 35 attendees. And usually we can bring about 8 people into a Capitol room, have a conversation. Sometimes it's in a hallway over a soda fountain, a water fountain, you know, trying to meet a staffer, right? But at this time we were able to really get a chance to have that intimate conversation with a multitude of our members, where our legislators were looking at our faces on a Zoom. And not everybody may have spoken to the issues, but we were seen, and that speaks volumes. And then I want to thank Dr. Porras really, truly for going to those weekly superintendent meetings with all the superintendents up and down the state, talking about the issues, the reopening plans, really working together. They brought back the information to us real time, and we were able to really put in place our operational plans and get this information with one voice, right? When we have a problem in education, we reach out to everybody, and we really do rely on our colleagues and to work hard to making things happen in real time. So it was because of Dr. Porras and the other superintendents. It was because of the Monterey County Education Coalition, where we were brought back superintendents and our partners with CSESA and CTA and AFT and all these other organizations coming together to write common letters with common language straight to the governor. So it was because of this group of people writing that common letter to the governor and having a seat at the table at the Capitol with the governor that AB 86 passed. So, you know, the kudos go to everybody here in education. You know, we're fighting this together. We're working together to make it so our kids can come back to school. And I couldn't be prouder to be a part of a better organization and working with the best group of people I know. So that's just what I have to say about that. And I could talk about that all night, but I won't, because I got 3 more things to talk about.
You have 20 seconds, Barbara.
Oh, do I? Which one to choose? I do have to talk about the crossing guard, and that will be just really quick. We met 2 years ago. We had a student get hit by a car in front of the high school. It was because of the blinding sun going up Sunset. They were transported to the hospital. Because of that, we came together with the police department to talk about our crossing guards, our crosswalks. The police department at that time paid 2 positions. There were 2 paid positions, one at Sunset and Congress, and one was at Robert Down.
Barbara,
Am I done?
finish up, 10 seconds, please.
We have 24 places at the crosswalks now that have to be manned, and we are asking for volunteers. We have 7 volunteers. So it's a continuous conversation and planning that we have. I want to thank Trustee Carolyn Swanson for working all 3 stations and all of our others as well.
Thank you so much. Ms. Silva.
You're still muted, Director Silva.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay, hold on. So good evening, Board of Trustees and staff and families who are here. I just wanted to share that the state of California has given districts a reprieve from giving the Smarter Balance assessments, the CASP, the state tests. They're giving districts the opportunity to give local assessments. And we've chosen that, that option to give a local assessment, and we are contracting with NWEA to give the MAP test, which is called the Measure of Academic Progress. We chose this, the state had requirements for us to offer a local assessment. One was that it had to be aligned to the state standards, which it is, consistently given across grades 3 through 8 and 11. And I want to report that we are also going to give it to grades 9 and 10. That we need to be able to print out and give a report to parents regarding their students' progress and how it would align with how they would do on the CASP test. It is a computer adaptive test. And what it does, more importantly, we're going to have results right away. We're talking the day after the students take the test, we're going to have results. And this is really going to help us drive our instructional program, our intervention programs, because we really are going to get down to the nitty gritty of what skills are needed for our students in terms of closing any achievement gaps. But we're also not only learning about achievement gaps, but we're also going to know our students who are advanced and where they are, so then we can meet our students where they are academically. So I'm really, really happy that we're going to move forward with this. Our teachers will be trained. They will be giving the assessment. They'll be trained on May 3rd, and then the students will be taking the test shortly thereafter. They'll take 3 tests. It's a a math test, a reading test, and a language test. So I'm very happy to report that. And so we'll have more information coming to you soon. The other criteria, forgive me, was that we have to be able to disaggregate reports by student groups, which is one of the things that the CASP does. And so this assessment does the same. So looking forward to bringing more information when we have the results for you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Director Silva. Ms. Mankey.
Thank you, President Paff, members of the board and the public and our colleagues. I would like to take a moment and recognize our retiree, Patty Odell. Patty is the administrative assistant 4 at the Pacific Grove Middle School. She's been with our district for 15 years. And I can just tell you that her work is invaluable. Patty, we wish you the very best and want you to know just how much you will be missed. Take care.
Thank you, Ms. Mankey. Ms. Lip.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Stephanie Lip, Nutrition Director. I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. Firstly, I wanted to give a long overdue public thank you to my team that has been tirelessly working since the beginning of this pandemic time. From the get-go, they've never stopped. And we're continuing to serve more and more meals now that the students have returned back to campus, and we're even serving kids meals to take home. So from normal pandemic time to now, we've increased our participation by over 150%. So it's been really amazing to just be able to reach as many students as we can. A second announcement is that recently the USDA has announced some waiver extensions that can potentially allow us to serve free meals through June of 2022. And before we officially announce it to our families, we're waiting for the California Department of Education to kind of catch up and send out their guidance before we do that. So it is highly likely. So when that happens, we'll make sure to get that communication out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lip. Mr. Keller.
Thank you, Trustee Paff. Sean Keller, proud principal of Robert Downey Elementary School. And I would like the board and our community to know that tomorrow we have our next PTA fundraiser at Carmel Bell in Carmel. And this is owned by a PGUSD family. And Carmel Bell is located on San Carlos Street in Carmel between Ocean and 7th. And they are offering 10% of all sales from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. So please participate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keller. Ms. Richmond.
Hi, just a quick announcement about the breaker bots. Of almost 4,000 teams worldwide, we were one of 116 to move on to the semifinalist round in the Innovation Challenge. Based on their work, developing a system to help search and rescue teams find people lost at sea more quickly. So I will keep you up to date on our future progress.
Thank you very much, Ms. Richmond. I see no other member of staff, so thank you also very much. Individuals desiring to address the board. Public comment on any item of interest to the public within the board's jurisdiction may be heard. The board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes for each agenda or non-agenda item, and a total time for public input on is 20 minutes pursuant to Board Policy 9323. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action item prior to board action thereon. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to administration for action or place an item on a future agenda. Members of the public who have raised your hand, I failed to ask our student rep if she would like to comment tonight. So will you forgive me as I ask Ms. Giraldo if she would like to comment on what else is going on?
Yes, I do have a brief update for PGHS. Obviously, we're getting towards the end of the year, so we're finishing up. But for myself as a senior, that means there's a lot of exciting things going on, and I really appreciate that we've had some things planned since we haven't had too much this year so far. But so we have the senior awards night coming up. I believe the date is May 18th, so that's one thing to look forward to. We had the senior picnic on May 24th, and then as we get close to the end of the year, we also have the memory walk on May 25th. And I remember seeing them when I was like in middle school, and even when I was in elementary school, seeing the seniors come through. So I'm excited that I'm actually getting the chance to do that this year. We might have some other things going on. I know we have some unofficial things planned through the senior parent group, but that's pretty much all that's happening with seniors. And I think everyone else, obviously everyone's happy to be back in person, but just winding up, getting ready to end the year on a strong note.
Thank you so very much. Ms. Giraldo, have you signed anywhere?
I haven't committed officially, but I am planning on attending UC Santa Barbara.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
With that, thank you so very much for the report, and really congratulations. Ms. Youngkara.
Hello. Hi, just asking the board to take serious consideration when preparing for the new school year 2021-2022 in regards to before and after school program, as there are so many families, including myself, on that for having their kids return to school safely. And it was one of the major factors in my decision of not sending my kid back to school yet, and really counting on that for the next school year. And I am sure that a lot of other families are on the same boat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe Dr. Porras will address that in his COVID update. Yeah, okay, it is Dr. Hazen. Dr. Hazen.
Thank you, President Paff. I just want to say thank you to the board, administration, staff, and especially teachers. I know you guys probably got some pretty heated emails from us just showing how much we care about this issue, but the return to school has been amazing for our kids, and they come home every day rejuvenated and safe. So just wanted to really extend a big thank you across the board.
Thank you so very much. I see no other hands raised. So we will move on to our consent agenda. Board, this is a long and, well, it's not the longest consent agenda. We're not in double letters. We've had double letters occasionally. And I failed to ask in advance if there were things that you wish pulled. So board, are there items to be pulled? We'll start with Ms. Dawson. Or discussion or questions on this?
No items to be pulled, and I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Brian. Well, is Brian still online?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah. Do you have me now? I missed
Now we
you
can.
for a second.
Yes.
Somebody might be making microwave popcorn over here in Minnesota.
Somewhere in the
that could
United
be
States.
happening. Yeah. I thought about this for a while, and I'm not entirely sure how to approach it. I mean, there are a few things that need to be fixed. I don't know if they need to be pulled. So it's a bit of a procedural question, really, and a lot of it came to me late the other evening. So I can throw my suggestions that these things be corrected and approve knowing that they would be, or we can pull them.
You're talking about the student handbooks, am I correct?
Yes, consent I, J, K, L, and M. I have tweaks on all.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. President.
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Thank you. I think if we can do this a couple of ways. We realize that there are some grammar and spelling and formatting issues in there. We're trying to get these onto the agenda in the middle of everything else happening. We just weren't able to get as scrutinous an eye as we'd like to. If you want to send those to us, we will make sure those corrections get made before final posting. But if it's a contextual question regarding content issues, then yeah, we probably should pull it.
It's not, and by and large, it is, a faulty hyperlink. The fact that John Walton is on some of these, but there are a few hyperlinks that don't work and a few other things. I will send those to you, and I'm happy to actually approve as part of consent, knowing that the corrections are minor at best and not really substantive, and we can move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't have anything to pull. I have a couple of comments that I don't believe warrant pulling, so I'll just go ahead and say those. I want to say thank you to Shane Steinbach. It was his name on the high school one, and that was just succinct, easy to read. I really appreciated how he called out the policy, board policy that was relevant to the specific paragraph. And the thing that I thought was just so well done with that was on the cover page for that item, he spelled out specifically where the changes took place from previous years. And that was absolutely so helpful and efficient for me in reviewing them. So I really hope that there were some forms of that with the other ones, but his specifically called out the section and the page, directed our attention to the specific page to look at. I did read through the entire handbook, but knowing that there were changes that took place on those spots was really valuable to me. And then my name was misspelled on either, you know what? I didn't write down which one it was, so I guess staff will have to go back and make sure that my first name is spelled. Shane, was that yours? Okay, well, I just gave you so many thank yous. Okay, well, no one's perfect, so okay. So please make sure my name is spelled correctly on all 4 of them. And those are my comments for the handbooks, and those are also completes my comments for consent. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. I have no comments. Brian covered what I would have discussed. Although I'm really looking forward to the new mural. So
yes.
With that, public comment. I see no hands raised, so we will bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion to accept consent agenda?
So
Also
moved.
move.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Brian Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We move to a item I have to forward a little bit in my notes. Sorry, it just takes a moment. To the public hearing of California School Employees Association Sunshine List. We will open the public hearing, please, this time. Sunshine List is items that bargaining units wish to cover under the current bargaining session. And for this bargaining session, that is wages as listed, frankly, and health and welfare benefits. Dr. Porras, is there anything to add on that?
No, Mr. President, I think it's everything is inclusive as presented.
Okay. Do I have comments from the board? We'll start with Mr. Swanson.
I have nothing additional. No, thank you for asking.
Ms. Swanson.
No comments.
Ms. Dawson.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ms. Giraldo.
I have nothing right now. Thank you.
Okay, my comment, Dr. Porras, at the bottom of this, it says CSEA reserves the right to add, delete, modify these proposals. Seems wide open. Is that typical?
If they wish to make a change on it, then we would bring it back to the board noting those changes. So it is in that they can come back and ask for those changes.
Right. It's not carte blanche to make a change without further approval.
Correct.
Okay.
The public has a right to know what items are being discussed, and so it would have to come to a public.
Understood. Very good. Thank you. That's my understanding. I appreciate you clarifying. Public comment. I see no hands raised, so I will close the public hearing. And we will bring this back to the board. Board, any motion at this point?
I'll make a motion on staff's recommendation.
Seconded.
Motion is made by Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. That covers public hearing action discussion item A. We move on to the identical list. Whoops, excuse me, I need to move forward. For PGUSD and we will open public hearing here. This is our sunshine list, which includes wages, health and welfare benefits identical to CSEA's, and evaluation specific to procedures to be followed in the evaluation form, which may or may not need revision, but should be examined. Dr. Porras, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Not this time. I would defer to Director Mankey if there's anything else that she wants to clarify for this list.
President Paff, I believe that's all. Thank you.
Okay, starting with Ms. Swanson.
No comment.
Ms. Dawson.
No comments from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Nothing to add. Thank you, President Paff.
And I have nothing to add. Ms. Giraldo.
I don't have anything to add either. Thank you.
Thank you. We will open to public comment. Seeing none, we will close our public hearing and immediately go to a roll call vote. Do I have a motion to accept the PGUSD classified negotiations sunshine topic?
Also move.
Seconded.
Motion's made by Brian Swanson, seconded by Christy Dawson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you also very much. Passes 4-0. We move on to action discussion. Dr. Porras, district update on response to COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this report is going to be a little shorter than usual for once. And so I'll go over some data and then happy to take questions as we go. First and foremost, as usual, I just want to make a comment in regards to where we are with the county-wide and statewide metrics. As you all probably have read, and we did forward some articles from the Pinecone to you recently, and I have to applaud the Pinecone. They really have done a really great, a wonderful job in reporting the information that's needed to be reported clearly, succinctly. And so they did note that, again, our case rates are continuing to decline. We're looking at an adjusted case rate now of 2.7, which is lower than 3.2 last Tuesday. We are flirting with the yellow tier at this point. And so I think for schools, that doesn't really say too much more in regards to change, but it does make a notation that what we are doing in terms of social distancing, mask wearing, and our precautions are working around the county. And we'll see some adjustments in the business end of the spectrum, and hope that that will kind of translate out a little bit into education. But regardless of which, it's really great news and worth celebrating as we're watching a continued decline in those rates here in the county. One thing I want to make note of as well, we are working with an agency who they're not able to work with all school districts just yet, but trying to partner with an agency that's going to help us make vaccines available for anyone 16 years and older, and hopefully facilitate that here in the district, and going to continue those conversations. But in the meantime, there are several available clinics that will be coming in the next few days here in the county for anyone 16 or older that can receive the COVID-19 vaccine. There's a website, and I'll put it into the chat in just a little bit, but it's pretty easy to remember. It's MC for Monterey County, mcvaccinate.com. That's it. If you go to that website, you'll be able to see what kind of offerings they have. There's a lot of good information there. You can register for a COVID-19 vaccine on that website. And a good example will be that Hartnell, I think it's going to be tomorrow, is hosting a clinic. And if you go on that website, you'll see that it's available there. So great news for families that would like to see their 16-year-olds or older. So I would really encourage you to go to mcvaccinate.com. I feel like I'm giving a commercial. So that's a great opportunity for folks. And here we go. Some other news to report. Really grateful for the smooth opening of schools. Just kudos to the to parents, to teachers, to the classified staff, administration, everyone. Just before the break, as you know, we opened up our doors and began our phasing in plans. Thanks to the vigilance of everyone involved. There were no sour faces out there. Everybody really worked hard to make it happen. As this week began, I made it to pretty much every site, tried to be there for lunch and breaks as I could, and just spectacular. The supervised lunches, the structured play, the separated gates, the lunch crew, my gosh, they're amazing. Director Lip and her team, just remarkable. And all of the volunteers that have been on the playgrounds out there, its cooperation is just remarkable. It's the only word I can use. So thank you to everyone. We're going to continue that work. I know as we make a close to the school year, and the high school began its schedule change today as well. And really good, successful start with that. It was interesting to see as we looked at the numbers for students, the numbers have not really changed too much over this last week. We haven't seen a really drastic increase. And in fact, in the high school, at least for today, and there probably will be some changes, I'm sure, in the coming days as more people get used to it. But the numbers were actually about the same, even though the schedule got expanded. In fact, there were a couple cases that in some of the classes, the numbers actually reduced. So I think hopefully as the word gets out, we'll see more students coming back to the campuses. So wanted to make sure that you saw that part as well. I am continuing to report to the state regarding our number of students that are attending, our plans with hybrid, how that's going, and other statistics that they require. And we'll continue to do that through until June. We rarely get a chance to talk about our adult schools progress because we've been so focused on the TK through 12. But I do want to make a notation and a congratulations to our adult school program, which is now open. 45, a number of active students in the classes, and Director Martinez can give you more specifics, but we have lots of students. The preschools have come back, even though there's a short staffing and we're working on that piece. Want to give special recognition to some of the folks that have worked on our regular ed program, like Nikki Clevin, for stepping in to be able to provide the preschool students what they need. Really wonderful to watch that. And also the district is partnering with the Institute for Social Emotional Learning. And this is sort of the brainchild of Principal Martinez and the support of the adult school. And this is a response to families that have asked for this kind of support. Students and families, really, as we heard earlier, they're going to be needing a lot of support as we come to the closure of this year and the beginning of next year. And if you look on the district website, there's registration and dates for workshops that will be available. And again, this is for social emotional learning and support for families. So really great work happening from the adult school as well. And the last notation I'll make, two. I didn't mention it in written communications, but I thought it was important to share. In my ventures out to the sites, I do want to comment that we've actually seen an increase in folks that are walking on the sidewalks that are taking a moment of pause to enjoy the sound of laughter and watching our students back on campus. And they've made a point of coming and talking to me about it and just sharing that how ecstatic they are to see a little bit of normalcy happening in Pacific Grove, and some of it specifically from Canterbury Woods. And it was really heartwarming to hear that from those folks. So wanted to share that. And last but not least, a question had come up in regards to planning for next school year, fall of 2021. We are planning to open full in person. And I think every school district is. We don't know what will come of the changes in legislation. We are hearing little bits and pieces here and there in regards to what if distance learning needs to be allowed or offered or provided in some fashion or another. We are going to make every effort we can to be prepared in the event that we do have to offer some form of distance learning. However, that would not be in place of offering a full in-person program. So we'll be working on that and provide more updates as we move along. But by opening full in person, our plans are to make sure that we have before and after school programs available for students and their families again, to be able to offer everything that we offered prior to the shutdown, and then some, because we do know that we are going to be operationalizing intervention programs both in the spring and then into the fall to help our students kind of close some of the gaps that we saw during COVID. And also just to catch up with some of the students that had just some particular difficulties in general in their home lives. We want to make sure to provide them the support that they need. And so that's where the social emotional component will come in. Lots and lots going on, but we're working at it. And I'll report any further information as I go. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you direct my way, Mr. President.
Dr. Porras, thank you so very much. We will start with Ms. Dawson.
I just think it's absolutely incredible news. I mean, we've had a year of some very tough conversations that everyone will remember the rest of their lives. So to hear, as you say, the children's laughter and the return to normalcy, thank you for the great news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Swanson.
Just again, great in what Trustee Dawson said. Nice to see and hear that everybody is back, and also that people are obeying the rules. And without going too far deep into it, I'm presently in a world where we're not entirely there when it comes to mask wearing and things like that. So it's nice to see that people still take it seriously and understand that it's important. So my kudos and a tip of the hat, proverbial, of course, to all of that. And let's keep moving forward. Thanks to everyone.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. Dr. Porras, thank you so much, because I feel like right now we're in a little bit of a limbo, waiting to hear from the state on a lot of things, and also just waiting not to hear from ourselves on some things, but just kind of in a limbo zone. So I appreciate the update. I think we're on limbo on this, but I'm going to ask about it. I wanted to ask about summer school, and I don't know if it's viable for this summer, or perhaps more productive for next summer, once we've gotten kids back into school and we've been able to kind of assess where they are and see if there's a need for summer school. But I wanted to ask about it and just kind of have the public and everybody here, like, where we are, even if it's a limbo state on that topic.
Sure, I can speak briefly to that. We discussed this at length with the county soups recently, and every district's doing things a little bit differently based on their populations. I think the path we're following is one that's similar to what a few districts are doing. We really want to focus heavily on providing intervention in our spring during our regular school year and into the fall. And we have a better read of sort of the assessments that we've given in the spring, and kind of make that part of the instruction that we're providing students. And that's going to include using a number of the intervention dollars that we are anticipating to putting some meaningful instructional support programs into the school day. And this wouldn't necessarily be with our classroom teachers directly, but intervention folks that can come in and work with students that we've identified. The summer program, most of the time, ends up being pretty short and short-lived. And I think we can do better good by making it a strong part of our regular instructional program. And I think that's going to be most effective. Our plans are to make sure we still do have a secondary, as middle school and high school credit recovery program. We are required to provide that. We're going to be working with an online platform for that. And Director Davies will be leading that charge in the summer, and as well as having the required extended year program for special education in the summertime as well. But the general education summer program, we're trying to put more of our effort into what we're doing in the spring and then into the fall, where it's going to probably have a lot more impact that way.
Thank you. That's all that I had for comments.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Giraldo.
I don't have anything to add right now. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So, Dr. Porras, one of the, I guess one of the items that needs to come up is, just in general, is we will be looking at things that we need for next fall and plans that we need to make. We will end up with a plan B, basically, which says, well, if the state imposes DL on us in mid-July, we need to be prepared. And I expect that we'll start seeing that on agenda or part of your discussion. Correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. We're once we get a better read on it, but we already are beginning our process of taking a look at what that can look like. Again, it's going to probably be focused mostly on some kind of platform that allows distance learning that doesn't distract or take away from the in-person work that we're highly focused on at this point. It's going to depend a lot on what the state brings too.
Okay, thank you so very much for that. I will open to public comment. Grace.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Grace Brown. I am a parent and also a parent representative from Parent Association, the PG chapter. That's kind of a newer organization, and if anyone's interested in learning more about it, please feel free to contact me. You can reach me at graceb116@gmail.com. And that's kind of just a little side note. I'm just commenting. I wanted to say thank you for Dr. Porras for giving us information about what your expectation and intentions are for the next school year. We're happy to hear that you are intending to have the schools reopen full-time in the fall. I think there still are questions about what before and after school programs are going to look like, what summer school, the summer school issue. I think that's an unfortunate thing. But I think maybe more conversations could be had about that. You know, parents are still concerned about bus schedules. They're still concerned about how the distance learning has been implemented and what it's gonna look like. But I don't necessarily think that's something that we have much control of over at this point. I think it's maybe something we need to look more to and have more discussions about later. I do think though that parents still need to be aware that our students are receiving a lesser amount of in-person instruction than other school districts, even in our area throughout the state. Also, there's multiple school districts that are open 5 days a week. There are some that are having limited schedules, maybe not considered full-time, but there are schools that are open full-time. And so that's just something I think we need to look at. We've had emails sent to our board asking why this is, and they're saying there's an issue with having distance learning and in-person instruction. However, Carmel Unified, who is a similar construct and structure as our school, is able to provide in-person instruction full-time, and there's no limitations there. So I think that we're at a disadvantage. I think our students are learning at a lesser amount, which is of in-person instructional minutes, and I think that that's a concern. Lastly, I just wanted to say, as a parent of a Latina woman and as a parent of bicultural children, white and Latinos, I'm really concerned with Ms. Gordon's comments, and I really hope that we get more information about how her views are and her comments are being implemented in our schools. I think that if any other parent has concerns about that, please let me know. We should talk more about that. So I appreciate your time this evening, and I look forward to having more discussions with all of you parents.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Junquera.
Hi, one more comment that I had was, as you're looking at the possibility of having to continue with distance learning for a certain number of students that might have to continue distance learning, especially if there's a state mandate for that. I think this is a great opportunity also for us to look at alternative ways of providing instruction to kids that are not feeling well, so they're not forced to go to school, feeling sick as it's been before. I know Mr. Keller has mentioned that they've abolished perfect attendance prizes and that's not something that's going to be valued. But I would like to see what the district is doing in terms of how are we preparing from here on, and I think it's a forever thing, to offer instruction to kids that are ill and cannot attend school. And how can we use all this that we learned during the pandemic about distance learning and hybrid models and everything? How can we put this into work for the future, so kids that are not well stay home and their parents feel okay that they're staying home and they're not missing out on school? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Junquera. Our next speaker just says Zoom user, so.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Julie McCullough. Thank you. I just wanted to say, really happy about the graduation being on campus at the stadium. That's great news. And it's great to have the kids back doing hybrid. There is a concern I've been having about the middle school schedule. So the AM, PM cohorts. So the kids are either on campus for the morning cohort or the afternoon cohort. But we have not been seeing for the sixth graders a lot of work assigned for the period that they're doing asynchronous, whether it's in the morning before they go to school or after they've been on campus. And it was my understanding that there would be asynchronous assignments for them so that they've got additional school hours every day, or at least Tuesday through Friday, so that when they're not on campus, they have assignments when they go home in each of their classes. And we haven't been seeing that. So I just wanted to bring that up to the board. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to the board, Ms. McCollum. Masha.
Hello, good evening. I would like to make briefly 2 comments. One, to follow up what was said about the asynchronous assignments. We have not seen asynchronous assignments a great amount on Mondays as well, when it's supposed to be asynchronous learning, right? At most, I have seen half an hour, which does not really constitute the full school day. But the second comment I wanted to make was next year, when, yes, I think it's very relevant and important to think of the students whose health probably endangers them to be back in the classroom. But when those decisions are made and when we are having those conversations, I think it's also important to think that it should not be at the expense of the students who want to be in the class. Which brings me back, it should be really 5 days, full day, with an options of distance learning for those who choose to stay. So not taking away more, because it's been a year of just taking. So it's a conversation that I believe we will be having, and it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Masha. I see no other public comment, so we will conclude that. I do not see that there was an action requested of you. There were some comments made about middle school asynchronous assignments, which are noted. Yes, go ahead, Ralph.
No, there are no actions requested at this time, Mr. President.
None of those are actions. So, okay, so we will move on. Thank you all very much. Thank you, members of the public, for speaking. Adoption of Resolution 1069. Resolution 1069. So in brief, the California Voter Rights Act, which was enacted in the 90s, am I correct? Allows for districts to either be at large or by district, so that I am elected through a subset of PG, for example, as would Brian or Carolyn or Christy. And there is a portion of that that says that if there has been a condition where a group that is underrepresented does not have access to those, essentially elections, then we would be at fault, and we should correct that. In recent years, there's been an increasing number of legal actions against districts and cities that do not have district elections, and this resolution seeks to rectify that. Dr. Porras, is there anything that you should add on that?
No, Mr. President, I think at this point in time, we do have a guest presenter that's available to go ahead and pick up the conversation at this point, if you'd like to have him continue.
Sure. If there's, again, if there's something that's been left out of that specifically and he would like to add to, that's perfect.
Okay. So we'd like to go ahead and introduce Mr. Harold Fryman from Lozano Smith, who's sort of one of the cutting edge workers on this, investigators on this whole process. And he's been working with our district in terms of just taking a look at the status. And I want to go ahead and pass it along to him. And he can certainly just provide any further detail and answer any questions.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. You know, I have a PowerPoint that I was going to present, but I'm actually thinking based on the introduction of the board president. And in the interest of expediency, I'll just sort of hit a few highlights for you rather than taking up the screen with a lot of words. You heard correctly from the board president, the California Voting Rights Act concerns itself with the possibility of racially polarized voting. And what that really means is situations where protected classes of individuals have trouble getting their preferred candidates elected, essentially because their votes are overwhelmed. And in an at-large school district, which is what you currently are, everybody votes for all of the school board members. It doesn't matter where the school board member lives, as long as they're within the district. What's happened under the California Voting Rights Act, or the CVRA, is that there has been a move for districts to transition to by-trustee area elections. And in a by-trustee area election in a 5-member school board, you'd have each member represent one trustee area. You still represent the whole district, but you would be elected from the voters from only within the one trustee area in which you live. And under state and federal law, those trustee areas have to be roughly proportional in size. They have to be within about 5% plus or minus of voting age population citizens, CBAP, we call it, citizens of voting age population. What's happened since the Voting Rights Act passed was actually in 2003, is there's been increased attention in recent years to the possibility of violations of this racially polarized voting concern under the CVRA. And as the board president mentioned, there have been an increasingly large number of lawsuits getting filed across the state. And what those look like under the CVRA is that you get a demand letter. We call it a demand letter. It doesn't always use the word demand. It's frequently from a small group of plaintiffs' attorneys around the state that are pursuing these matters. And if you receive one of those, you have 45 days as a school district to decide to commit yourself to move to by trustee area elections. If that you get one of those demands and you make the change, the attorney who made the demand on you is entitled up to approximately, it goes up by inflation, $32,000 in attorney's fees from the school district. So some school districts elect to move forward to the transition without waiting for one of those demands to come. And that's becoming more frequent around the state. It's also the case that a number of public agencies, it's not just school districts, it's cities and counties and special districts, have chosen to litigate these issues. And in the history of the CVRA, no public agency has ever successfully defended one of these lawsuits. Literally never. And there have been quite a few of those lawsuits. If you end up in litigation, the attorney's fees are typically in the six figures. And it goes all the way up to one court that awarded a $22 million award of attorney's fees to the successful plaintiff. That's certainly at the high end. Statewide, what we see then are school districts moving to by trustee area elections. To give you an idea, in 2016, fewer than 10% of the school districts in the state used by trustee area elections. In 2020, I don't have 2021 data, it was up to about 25%. So more than doubling. And our expectation is this pattern is going to continue statewide until really probably the bulk, if not all, of school districts in the state, probably in the next 4, 5, 6 years, will have moved to by trustee area elections. A couple things to clarify before I open this up to any questions. One of them is there's sometimes confusion about these two issues. One is you're not changing the exterior boundary of the district. If you move to by trustee area elections, the Pacific Grove Unified School District remains Pacific Grove Unified. You just have the trustee areas defined within it. And another question that comes up are, do trustees who've already been elected lose their seat as a result of creation of these trustee areas? The answer is no. If you're democratically elected, you get to serve out your term. So if you have a 4-year term, you get to serve out the 4-year term. So that's really a brief overview. The resolution that's before you tonight would allow the board to start the process to move forward. It would be dependent on receipt of the federal census data, which unfortunately has been delayed due to COVID. We probably won't be getting that till September or October. It should have been March. So what this would do is would commit the district to moving forward to by trustee area elections for the 2022 election, but not actually developing maps, which will require public hearings and public input of what the trustee areas might look like until after that that census data is available. So that is a bunch of complex law and a very broad overview for you.
Thank you so very much. I have no questions. Mr. Swanson.
I don't really have any questions. I appreciate exposing here, which is essentially an effort of the district to avoid a nuisance lawsuit, because we're not really doing anything wrong, most especially in a district this small, but trying to rather save the district money by moving forward and getting in advance of what might come. So I appreciate the efforts, and the explanation of what we're looking at. It's a drag because we have bigger things to handle, but it is necessary because we don't like to throw away money. And what we could ultimately be looking at is throwing away larger money if we sort of stand on what we believe is principle, but is a losing hill to place that battle upon. Is that a pretty apropos summary, Mr. Fryman? I mean, I'm sorry, is it Fryman or Freeman?
It's actually Freeman. It's
I'm
spelled.
sorry,
wrong.
I you know, yeah, I mean, I did study the language, and I was looking at that, and it's like, it should be Fryman, I think, but it's Freeman, so I'm so sorry.
No worries. Yeah, you've correctly assessed the situation. It really is sort of an inevitable thing that eventually all school districts will probably get one of these demand letters. And increasingly school districts have decided to do this on their own terms, on their own timeline, without having to deal with one of those demands and the resulting attorney's fees. It does result in a cost savings.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your efforts.
Ms. Swanson.
Yeah, thank you, John. I'm so glad that Brian, you kind of summarized that, because I think it made it really clear that we're out of a need to essentially be fiscally responsible. We are having this resolution on the agenda now, and I know that it doesn't always make a lot of sense to perhaps a resident who would just hear of this and feel like we are so small geographically, and perhaps it I don't know. I just I do feel like to be fiscally responsible, this is kind of the path that we need to take, and so I'm curious how it will all play out, and those are all my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, I know we procrastinated on this when we first heard about it. We digested the information and we put it off, and I think Brian summed it up quite well. And I just think we have to meet it head on and deal with it. So thank you, Mr. Freeman, for a great explanation. And I feel it's inevitable as well, and we'll just grin and bear it and move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Aldo.
I don't have anything to add right now, but thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move to public comment. Beth, I assume this is Beth Shamus.
She is unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yes, hello, this is Beth Shamas. Well, the one thing I really hope that you don't vote on this tonight, because it's the first time you're bringing it up. It's brand new. I have a lot of questions. When the attorney was talking about proportional in size, I think that's so problematic for Pacific Grove because we are so tiny, and you start to look at parts of our city that is, like in the coastal zone where we have short-term rentals. And I just think there's a lot of issues where this may be a detriment to us in actually being able to get more diversity on the board. And so I would just hope that we could think about this a little bit more or have a little more discussion on it. It's $30,000 just to put it in motion, I guess, right? I would like to see board policy that actually proactively invites and trains possible candidates as an outreach to the community, and that would be something that would ensure that we would be really looking for as diverse or making it as open as possible to people who would like to run. So anyway, I'm just concerned that it may be something that is going to be a hindrance to us rather than just helping us avoid a lawsuit.
Thank you so very much.
Mhm.
I see no other.
President Path, if I may, too, if there's no
Yeah, I
other
see no other
comment,
members of
I'll
public,
jump
so
in.
bring it back. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, just point of clarification, really, it's like what we're looking at really is not spending $30,000, but I think what we're actually looking at is saving quite potentially more than that. And one of the things I think that's also worth pointing out is, although I know part of it, because it involves potential litigation, has been closed session discussion, is what we're trying to do is save a considerably larger amount as we look at this. And I think Mr. Freeman might be able to address this a little bit more. One of the possible outcomes is a broader, more diverse representation as these lines are drawn. I don't fear, as we look at this, anything other than us having possibly a broader representation of diverse groups across the district. So it doesn't really worry me about that. The other thing I want to emphasize, and I think Mr. Freeman had pointed this out, is that nobody has ever won one of these lawsuits when it came to us. And in our discussions over the last 6 or 8 weeks, one of the things, again, that I've noticed is that if I were an enterprising lawyer, I would be ramping up and digging in to go and make a whole bunch of money across the state of California. And nobody's done that yet for whatever reason. They haven't. We're talking about getting ahead of the curve. I don't think there's a downside. I think we're just sort of dodging a bullet here. And the question really is, how big of a bullet?
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. I believe everything you've said there is correct, except for the part where there are no law firms that are just going up and down the state. There are, in fact, 2 law firms of which we know that are bringing forth these demand letters and making $32,000 for changing the name of the district or the city. And Mr. Freeman, I believe that is a true statement from what you've told us in the past. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, and since I started speaking to you about it, we've moved from 2 or 3 attorneys that are doing that to 4, 5, 6 attorneys that are doing that. So we're seeing the geometric increase, and in fact, we're actually seeing some of those law firms racing each other. We work with one entity that received a demand from one of those firms on April 1st, and then from the other one on April 2nd. So this really is a statewide trend, and we don't see it going away. We just see it growing.
It also, just to clarify, there will be some money spent with the demographer and legal fees. We would save money on a lawsuit, but there will be some monies.
That's correct. You would end up spending the same money on the demographer with or without one of these demand letters. So it's money that the district's out of pocket to do that process either way. But you avoid having to pay a prospective plaintiff $32,000, or worse, if you miss any deadlines, find yourself in litigation, and then you're talking about easily $150,000 or significantly more in legal costs.
Okay.
So fundamentally, I think Ms. Shamus has a very good point. The public hasn't heard this, and yet we're kind of ready to take action on it. And there are problems within it. There are 5 meetings that will occur before we are divided into districts, and they occur between now and 2022, actually probably between now and summer of 2022, to put this into place. But first, we do need the census data. And much of the items that were brought up there, number of residents, what does proportional really mean? What do we ask of the demographer? Are we concerned about being in a particular district? I, for one, am not. We do have the ability to actually manage those. I certainly hope we have the ability to manage those. The other item that you mentioned is working a better board policy to invite and train candidates, which is a good suggestion unto itself. I don't think we want to put that on immediately, but as we do this, we should include something along those lines. So I think that merely opening the box once allows people to come forth. And unfortunately, if we do not act, we put ourselves in a position where someone changes out Greenfield and puts in Pacific Grove.
Mhm.
So I unfortunately feel I need to move forward with it now. I'm not happy. I think it's an extortion suit that was inadvertently put in by California government, but since it's there, we need to deal with it. So I make a motion that we accept resolution 1069. Intent to initiate a transition from at-large to by-trustee area elections commencing with the 2022 board election.
I will second.
Okay,
I have one quick question for Mr. Freeman.
go ahead.
I was trying to unmute myself. I apologize to your motion for having it wait just a second.
Fine.
Mr. Freeman, so currently my question is about how the public is going to see their ballot change. So currently what happens in our district, every even numbered year, our public sees either 2 or 3 trustee names, well, or more, right? They have to vote, I should say, to elect 2 or 3 trustee names on their ballot. What will their ballot look like if this goes through?
Yeah, that's a good question. So instead of voting every 2 years on the 3 or the 2 seats that are up, people living in each trustee area will vote once every 4 years for their board member from their trustee area to be seated for that 4-year period. So if, for example, you have 3 seats that are open in 2022, there will be 2 trustee areas that are not voting in 2022. They will vote in 2024 when their seats become open, and that becomes the pattern moving forward.
Good.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
student advisory. I don't know if she's still here.
Oh, she may have left the evening to do some homework. Apologies.
Sorry, thank you.
Understandable.
Passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. Our next item is Resolution 1070 regarding vacancy in the Board of Ed and provisional appointment process. So Trustee Walton provided to us on April 9th a letter of resignation basically dated April 9 that he needed to depart from his seat. We are allowed to do a couple of things. We can make a provisional appointment, or we can order an election to fill the vacancy. We are looking to make a provisional appointment at this point. Dr. Porras, anything you would like to add on that? I'm sorry, I have one other thing before you start. My apologies. There is an error on page 237. Vacancy in the Board of Education was created on April 9, 2021, not April 8. The next page, page 238, the resolution is accurate. Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have much to add. I think the item speaks for itself pretty clearly. We did experience a similar a provisional appointment process when former trustee Tebow had to step down. And so just to be clear for folks, if you read through the packet, you'll see there's a timeline listed for you in the packets on page 240 for the public to see the timelines and the days that mark out those 60 days. There's a application for a provisional appointment to the board, which is a worksheet basically listed for folks there, and it tells exactly where to submit it to, in this case, my office. So if there's any folks in the audience now that are intrigued or interested, if you could just fill that out and then send it back our way, that would be great. There's still time, and so you can refer to that timeline. The important, I think, part to note that when the board pursues the interviews based on the applicants, there are options of either having a subcommittee do the interviews and then move finalists forward to a board meeting, or you can simply conduct the entire interview as part of a board meeting. And in the past, this board has chosen to conduct a full board interview with all of the candidates because there weren't that many candidates that stepped forward. So that's what happened in the past for us here. And as we move forward and find out how many applicants we have, we can make a determination in terms of how the board would like to interview those candidates. Other than that, absolutely want to let the public know that you can contact us here at the district office, either my assistant, Ms. Ackerman, or myself. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have in regards to the duties of a trustee, the responsibilities, the timelines, pretty much anything you need, we can answer for you. And so we're happy to take any questions. And so please direct those towards me if you can, and we'll be happy to talk about it. Other than that, Mr. President, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Porras. So there is a application for provisional appointment to the Board of Education. As such things are, they are assumed to be longhand because forms have to be in a packet, but feel free to type all that in. And can we provide that on a suitable PDF that allows it or no?
I suppose we could, sure. We could probably post it onto the website. I'll work with Ms. Ackerman on that.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Let's see. I think I started with, I don't know who I started with last time. We'll start with Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. Let's see. Yeah, I would really like to just, and it sounds like it was just talked about, I'd really like to have the district push out this as much as possible. I was reading the policy on it, and I think the policy already says that you're most likely going to list it in the newspaper. I really like that John Paff just mentioned to make sure it's on the website, and just really promote this in a way that encourages folks to apply and encourages folks to reach out to Dr. Porras. Dr. Porras, I guess they could also reach out to the board and ask questions as well if they wanted to, or is that more, would you prefer them to reach out to your office?
I think the preference would be to have folks reach out to our office. Certainly anyone can reach out to a board trustee out at any time. But sometimes there's just procedural questions that are in place that just make it easier for us. And so we can also be consistent in the answers that we're giving to different folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. And then 1 second, I'm just reading my notes here, just 1 moment. I also, my note was about the typo on the cover sheet, and President Paff mentioned that as well. So that is the conclusion of my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson.
Yeah, I would encourage people to be involved with the board. I was the lucky person that got chosen to do this the last time it happened 4 years ago. And I just hope people get involved. The greater the diversity of opinions and thoughts on the board, the stronger the board is. And it's a good board. It's solid with good people and a great school district to work for. So please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
Yeah, what Christy and Trustee Carolyn said, I would encourage everybody who's even remotely interested to really seriously consider it. It's really rewarding. Sometimes it's really difficult, and this was the difficult year, but still, even though it was difficult, it was, you know what they say, right? If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I also want to acknowledge Trustee Walton leaving a position on the board. I know I have no doubt was not a conclusion or a decision that he fell upon without a lot of thought and consideration. He was a valuable member of our board, and he will be missed. He brought so much to our discussions, and he brought tremendous insight and experience to our discussions. He will be missed. And so please, anybody who's thinking about it, really do, and throw your hat in the ring. We take all comers very seriously. So that's what I've got to say. It's a good group, and it can be fun too.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. We'll open up to members of the public. Somewhat frighteningly, there are no questions.
There's 75 people and nobody wants to say a thing.
Bring that back. Resolution 1070. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second then. Yeah, I'm in.
Motion's made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Papp,
Yes.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Yes, certainly.
trustee Dawson,
Yes.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. And I concur with Mr. Swanson. I will absolutely miss Mr. Walton on the board.
As will we all. I was plugging for the future, but he was very important and very valued.
Our next item is a revision to Board Policy and Regulation 2365. We just passed this at the last meeting. And one of the things that kind of came up almost immediately is people saying, you're only going to have 30 days. Well, that's all of 2 meetings left live. So I think the tacit agreement was, yeah, that's probably a little short. The regulation in general, the policy and regulation in general are fine. We do need to set some constraints, but probably we should look at the days following. Board, I'm going to go out on a limb and simply say, I think if we put in a 3-month window, 90 days for video online and 180 days before we strike that, before we delete that and leave the board minutes, I think would work very fine. That's 3 and 6 months and allows time. So, but with that, Dr. Porras, unless you have other comments.
No, sir.
Okay. I open up to Ms. Dawson.
I do think people go back and when they're trying to substantiate an idea that they remembered from a previous board, it's nice to have it longer. So I concur, lengthen the time, no problem with that. And then that offers people in the audience or people who weren't able to be there to go back and see what happened. So yes, let's lengthen.
Okay. Mr. Swanson.
I wish we'd gotten it right the first time. I'm fine to change it. I'm a little worried that we have a 2-page document that ends with an in summary ... because we need to explain what happened at the first 2 pages. And we probably could have written the whole thing better than we have. But if we can put this together in a way that doesn't come back in another 2 weeks, sure, let's do that.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. I have a question. And by the way, I think your recommendation is fine. I have a question on the regulation page. It's 245, and it's in the last. It's in the paragraph that Brian just mentioned. It starts in summary, but it's the part. It's the sentence that starts after 30 days, and I realize that 30 will now change. The recording will be removed from the website, and I wonder if we should. I wonder if that sentence saying "will be removed" makes it so that we're putting pressure that it has to be removed. Do we want to just say it may be removed from the website and archived for 90 days?
So this is a great question, actually, because those subtleties, they are constraints. I would say actually will is correct, and what it forces someone to do is then go back. But if you'd like it as shall, so that if we lose a week and nobody's there to do it, then we're not hurting anything, it's not unreasonable. So
Yeah, I think just to be more clear, if we want to make it a must or a shall, type of wording, I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah. I would make it shall.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you good with that? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. Public
I
comment.
like that. I'm down with that. I'm sorry to jump in front of the public here too. Who shall remove it? Is that Mr. Mejia?
That is
removing it?
whoever's in charge of our website. So it's currently Mr. Mejia,
Okay.
possibly Mandy.
Put an iCal or Google Cal reminder on that.
Okay. Well, they're every other week. I see no hands for public comment. Okay, so we'll move this forward. I make a motion, we make a change to Regulation 2365 to ensure that we have on the website recordings for 90 days and they shall be removed and archived for an additional 90 days and available for 180 days.
Seconded.
Okay. Dr. Porras, is that clear?
Yes, sir. We got it. We got it down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson. I don't know, is he frozen?
He's frozen.
Aye.
There he is.
Thank you. Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. And board members and frankly, public, thank you for bringing this back so quickly when, we needed to really just say, yeah, that's probably too short. So it was a good call. Thank you. Approval of contract for service with AMS.net for installation of paging bell and clock system at PG High School. As we know from almost a year ago, the bell system at the high school failed, and we are in a position now with both tech funds and bond money to move forward on a replacement. AMS.net was our provider for last week's service at Forest Grove, and this contract would be in addition to that. Mr. Kelly, do you have anything you'd like to add at this?
No, I think you summarized it perfect.
Okay. Mr. Swanson, do you have questions of Mr. Kelly? Or comments or whatever you wish? Have we lost Brian? Mr. Kelly, when you add in bell service, would you please add in a router to Mr. Swanson's? No, we'll move on to Ms. Swanson and come back to Brian if he shows up. So
He's there now.
I'm here now. I'm fine. I read it twice. I really read it twice. I'm fine with it. So
okay,
I'm good.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it looks good to me too. And I did want to say, I really liked that it sounds like Matt Kelly met with one of our school site councils to get their input on this initially. And I am almost always in favor. I can't even think of a time where I wouldn't be in favor of utilizing our school site councils for things like that. So thank you, Matt Kelly, for thinking to do that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Ms. Dawson.
All in favor of it. Thank you.
Public comment. Mr. Garcia, if you'd like to not have a bell system, you can speak up now. I see no public comment. So with that, do I have a motion?
I move for the approval of contract for service with AMS.net Inc. for installation of paging bell and clock system at the Pacific Grove High School.
I'll second.
Motion's made by Christy Dawson, second by Carolyn Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Passes 4-0. We move on to contract for services with field turf for PG High School field and track replacement. Board, as we know, we have, well, I'm going to give you a short history that, I started coming to board meetings about 2008. At that point, the board, including Ms. Shamus there, had a bond, and part of the things they did with it was rebuild the stadium, which in my opinion hadn't been touched since about 1964, and really did a very nice job. And at the time, Robin Blakely was CBO, and one of the things that I asked personally of him at that time was, well, what's the replacement life on this? And he said, well, the track will need to be replaced about 2015 and the field will need to be replaced about 2017. So we are well past that. We have gotten great life from these facilities. Part of that is strictly due to a climate that does not allow quite as much UV as, say, Irvine. UV is the killer on artificial turf. And we have put many hundreds to thousands of people allowing it to be used. And I'm thankful for that every single weekend. Every weekend I go out and I see people in the high school and at the middle school. I am thankful that we are providing that exercise in those facilities. So we have gotten great use, but it is time that it needs to be replaced. And Mr. Kelly has brought forth this and given us multiple proposals and one in detail. Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, would you like me to present? I have like an 8-slide presentation on this, kind of the process we went through on choosing it.
Yes, if you wish.
Sure. Let me share. Oops. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so first I'd like to start off on kind of where President Paff was ended with the field when Robin Blakely chose to go to a turf field and the community chose to go to a turf field. And I think it had a lot to do with water savings and the amount of usage that we could have. So I kind of calculated what water savings would be, or what water costs would be now today. The calculations go about 1 inch of water per week over the entire field. And then that would equate to about 71,000, a little over 71,000 gallons of water a week, which at $40.51 per 1,000 gallons would put us at about $2,900 a week for water. I calculated we usually water anywhere between 30 to 36 weeks out of the year. So that's a savings each year of $87,000 to $104,000. So over the life of the field, over 10 years, you've pretty much paid for it, a little over $1 million or so. It's pretty much paid for itself in just water savings. So when we got together, we put together a committee of student athletes and coaches and a couple administrators at the high school. And I wanted to get feedback from them on kind of how our field plays and how they liked it, how other fields played, what they liked about other fields and what they didn't like about other fields. So before I move on, I do want to thank Christopher Rosas, Isabella Hong, Carly Kelly, Sawyer Rice, and girls soccer coach Frank Giraldo, boys football coach Jeff Gray, boys soccer coach Nick Lackey, Laura Lee Gano, who's our athletic director, Lita Garcia, and our principal. And these are the main group that met with me twice over the last couple months. And the initial meeting from the committee was, especially from the athletes on this one, was adding a pad under the field for more cushion. Right now, we don't have the pad. The cushion really comes from the infill or black crumb rubber that we have. The other was exploring alternative infills. I talked about the recycled crumb rubber, which is made out of recycled tire. And I'll go through, get into depth of just a little bit more on that here in a little bit. And then staying away from what's called the green play infill, which is at Stevenson. I think every athlete on there that played on that field said it's slippery, it doesn't feel good to fall on. So we definitely want to stay away from that infill. that infill. And the last is lining of the field. There's a couple things we wanted to add to it. We looked at the logo again. Everything's going to stay the same. And we looked at possibly widening some of the other lines, but for the most part, everything will stay the same. And there's a picture in the, I think in the packet. From a facilities point of view, I wanted to look at warranty, the amount of maintenance there would be, and then obviously the useful life, and then especially when it comes to alternative infills, would we have to add water to the field itself? During the discovery phase, we looked at the recycled crumb rubber. We do know there was a public health concern about 6 years ago on the potential health risks to athletes and children on the surfaces. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services did a study on it. And even though they said there was no evidence of toxicity, that there still needed to be more studies to be done. So they did studies on mice, didn't find anything. They did studies on human cells, and then, but under I guess high heat, there was chemicals that leached out of the crumb rubber, which did kill some of the human cells. They did conclude that the studies were just basically the groundwork for future studies, which is I don't know if it's necessarily concerning, maybe a little bit of a red flag, or is that what would happen in the next 10 years as more studies came out, and especially California being as progressive as it is, there always could be the potential that they would say no more recycled crumb rubber fields. As we looked at alternative infills, we looked at a non-recycled rubber infield. There's ones made of cork, coconut peat, and a post-industrial recycled type of products. All those alternative infills, they do require a pad to put underneath, and that's really to bring up the cushioning and the concussion, and what the term they use is G-max value, which is a test that they use to see how the field responds to someone hitting it. And if it bounces good, it's a good G-max, which means that there's a little bit more cushion for when a head hits it. Some of these infills require adding water to it, which would add the cost of construction and obviously add the cost of the monthly water. Migration of the infill. Some of the infills are really, really light. In a heavy rainstorm, they could float away or cause somewhat bare spots, which would cause more maintenance to the field. And then last is footing, and how does the field play? The one consistent thing on all the research was that a crumb rubber infill plays the best. It's still what all the professional and Division I colleges still put in, and they just haven't got there with the alternative infills to have those type of major events on the field. Last or second would be, we looked at different types of turf systems, and there's a lot out there. Each contractor gave us a couple of different ones to look at. We wanted to make sure that we met the needs of all of the sports that were on there, predominantly football, soccer, and lacrosse, with soccer kind of being that outlier of the sport where you have a ball that's rolling on the surface, and that really affects the game quite a bit. And then obviously looking at how the turf holds the infill in, that's going to be your protection, and then performance, how the turf performs, cutting on it and speed and everything else like that. We decided with all that, with all those things in consideration, that the field turf product gave us everything that we were looking for. So the Vertex Core, that's the green type turf part of it. It's optimal for soccer, and what that does is it allows the ball to play more like a natural grass field without affecting the play of football and lacrosse and other sports that don't necessarily have the ball rolling on it. So I thought that out of all the other two competitors, they didn't provide that type of field. The True Blend infill was also a great option for us. It's the natural cork, it's the alternative infill, but they put an elastomer into it, and it plays more similar to the crumb rubber than just about any alternative infill. I was able to go visit a couple of these fields that had an alternative, and when I looked at the natural cork or the True Blend infield, it did feel and look a lot like the alternative crumb rubber, where I did have quite a bit of concern with a natural cork type of field, which that has recently been installed on the peninsula. And then we're going to add a 20 millimeter shock pad on the bottom, and this is really based off of the feedback that we got from the athletes. The good thing about the shock pad, that it will last about 2, maybe 3 fields, depending on how long the fields and how the technology with the fields goes. So it'll last anywhere between 25 and 30 years. And then last, we decided to go with the Bainon, the 200 RE track resurfacing, which is great option for us. It's basically what we have now that lasted us as long as it did. And what they'll do is they'll come up and rip up the top portion of it and then resurface the track, so it's going to feel soft and have some bounce to it. And again, so I want to go through the bid results, because it definitely wasn't looking at apples to apples. With 3 different turf companies, they all have their own systems. So it was really working with them and trying to understand what they had. So some included like for instance, you look at the first line item, Civil Works, some included the number or broke out the number, and some included it in their package alone. So what you'll see is under Civil Work, obviously we see that there's a number. The other one, the Sprint Turf and Hellas included it. Turf with crumb rubber infill. Sprint Turf gave us a number with the crumb rubber, where the other 2 did not. They gave us more of a Hellas gave us a number, but added the pad to it as a lump sum number at $866,000. And then Field Turf did not give us a crumb rubber proposal. They gave us the alternative infill, which one we're going with, and that's at $579,000. The Sprint Turf did add an upgrade to their turf, which we would have taken if we would have chose them as low bidder. So we included that in the price. The shock pad, those came in about the same with Field Turf and Sprint Turf. Hellas included it in their overall price. The add alternative infill, we did not choose to go with that with Field Turf, because that was a pure cork infill, which did not meet our needs. So that shows that little cross out. With Sprint Turf, we did add the alternative infill into the comparison portion of it, but probably wouldn't have chosen that infill because it was a little too similar to the green play infill that we talked about that Stevenson had. So with Sprint Turf, we probably would have had to go on with the traditional crumb rubber field, or had to continue to work with them to look for a different infill on their proposal. The tracks came in fairly similar to each other. Some included a performance bond, some did not. I'd personally like to have a performance bond in there. If anything ever happens with the field, the district is ensured that it will get done with another contractor. And then with adding a pad to the field, there is going to be some grade changes out there, because it's the transition between the track and the field. 2 of them included it, the other one did not include it, so we would have had to add extra money for that as well. And that's the end. Let's see if I can get back.
Yes, unshare. Thank you, Matt. So, you know, I have a couple questions on this in general. Your expected life on this, it's in your notes, but I just want to be clear, we're looking at a 10-year warranty, is that correct?
We're looking at a 10-year warranty. The last field had an 8-year warranty and we got close to 12. So I think we'll be pushing probably, you know, 12 to 14, maybe 15 years if it plays the same as the other field.
Okay, and these technologies have gotten better.
They have,
One
yeah.
of the things that's odd on our field now is how the yellow dye has worn differently than, say, the green or the red. Has that been rectified in as we put logos and markings on?
You know, I did not ask that question, but I can ask that question.
Okay, that's a technology thing, so I assume it's all
Yeah.
gotten better without really knowing. And I appreciate the level of detail you've provided us and the amount of work. This is one of 2 projects that are sort of big projects we're looking for in the summer, correct?
Correct,
So,
yes.
in this case, we actually need to put someone on board if we want it done. That's not to say I'm rushing. I'm just saying we've actually kind of spaced ourselves into a position where we're trying to do this summer.
That's correct. Yeah, we would. When I talked schedule with him, we were going to get in there right after graduation, which is what, January 3rd or 4th. And it would take approximately 8 to 10 weeks to complete. If they can start right away, things will probably change in the next month or so. And we're also seeing that a lot of construction materials are really getting hard to get for some reason right now. They're saying it's the pandemic, but no other real reason after that. So we're shooting to have it done before the first football game. And that would obviously be our goal. And that's what I told the contractor as well.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further. Ms. Dawson.
I totally agree. I love the way you broke it down and the comparisons and striking out certain things and adding things included, excluded. Thank you for such thorough work, and no further questions.
Mr. Swanson.
Again, as Trustee Dawson said, I appreciate all the detail. Your presentations are always fantastically thorough. For the interest of our viewers at home, could you just give us a second breakdown again on what a performance bond is, so those who might not know what that is actually is?
So basically what it does is it guarantees the district that the project will be completed. So if a contractor steps onto a job site, gets 50% done and decides, hey, I can't do the rest of this project and I need to pull off, a performance bond would cover the added cost to that low bidder's bid. So say the second bidder was $20,000 higher, they would cover the cost of that, of the difference, plus if there's any other incidental costs of moving in and moving out.
Fantastic, thank you.
Anything else, Brian?
No. And I knew that Matt or the Director Kelly had it covered, but I just wanted to kind of get a little bit more information on that. No, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. I'm just looking through my notes because a lot of them were already addressed. 1 second here. So I really like the proactive nature of choosing an alternative to the crumb rubber. And I really like that you had a committee, and I really appreciated that you listed who that was, because of course when I was reading I was like, I wonder who's on the committee, like is it well-rounded? And I really appreciate that you added that in there. For the Measure D expenditures, especially the larger ones, I would like to see members of the public on the committee, and I did see that you attempted. So I want to acknowledge that you attempted, but I think it would be important going forward to make that more, make sure that that really does happen. And I'm speaking for myself as a trustee right now. as a representative of the community, I do enjoy connecting with our community. So I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say it or not, but as a trustee, if you need help finding community members, I am more than happy to help with that. Let's see. I wanted to say that I appreciate you. I know I emailed you late today with a question on the infill, but you got back to me and I really appreciated that.
Sure.
And that was helpful. And the cork with an elastomer is, it's interesting. I'm hoping that it's not just plastic in some form, but I think it's still an upgrade. Oh, little bits of plastic right by the ocean. But I think it still is an upgrade from the crumb rubber. And I think as long as as we know better, we do better, that's what we can do. So I also saw that it came in, I think this was the one that came in a little bit higher than what you had expected, but your expectations were based on estimates, and so I don't fault you at all for it coming in higher. And I did see that you noted in the packet that the money was, it came in higher, but you were shifting money from another part of the Measure D, I think from the HVAC part. And so yeah, overall, I really appreciated the detail. I barely had any questions, and I think even the question that I asked you today, you had already answered in the packet, but I just didn't see it. So thank you, Director Kelly.
Sure, you're welcome.
With that, we'll open to public comment. I see none. Are there hands waving of which I'm not aware?
None that I see.
Okay.
No.
In that case, we will bring it back.
I move, ready?
Yes,
I move to approve the contract for services with field turf for PG High School, stadium field and track replacement.
Okay, I'll second.
motion's made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Paff,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Matt, I did have one further question, even though the motion's passed. It wasn't going to change my vote. Does this include a 10% buffer?
The cost? No, the cost is strictly the contract cost with them. The buffer would come in our out of the I'm drawing a blank on the name of the line item. Contingency, thank you. It would come out of contingency in the bond, yeah.
This is a firm fixed price.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, I again, somebody was probably making popcorn here or something. I missed that answer. It does not include a 10% contingency. It is a fixed price. Is that correct, Director Kelly?
It is, yeah. It is a fixed price. If there's any unknown change orders that would come our way, would come out of the contingency out of the Measure D line item.
Right on. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, don't go anywhere, Matt. Our next item is contract for services with IMS for Pelican wireless thermostats. Mr. Kelly.
All right, I got to give this orally because I lost my presentation on this for some reason. So we recently installed the Pelican thermostat system at Forest Grove with the Proposition 39 money. And right off the bat, saw the benefits of it. I think we brought this to the board a couple of months ago before we did the project under the Prop 39. And basically what it does is it fulfills a number of things for the district. When we looked at the HVAC concerns with COVID, one of the last things we needed to do with the recommendations we got from the parent HVAC was to put in a CO2 type sensor, which the Pelican, he recommended the Pelican thermostats, and that would fulfill that last line item, installing it over the district. And in addition to that, the state's moving towards forcing us to put in CO2. They recently did a study with UC Davis and UC Berkeley that said CO2 had effects on learning of kids. So when you have high CO2 levels, those effects were learned I guess some sort of response and listening and stuff like that in the classroom. So with these, we're able to monitor our CO2, set an alarm to it. If one or two things would happen, the fans would come on in the classroom, or it would alert us so we could go there to see why is this happening. During COVID, we can use the CO2 as a way of monitoring how much fresh air is coming in and out of the classroom. So if we do see a little bit of rise in CO2, we can go to that room and see what's going on, or the window's closed, maybe a fan's broken. But it kind of gives us that right away return that we want right now. And then last, not all of our systems are on a EMS system like this. So we do have quite a few systems that do run when they shouldn't be running. And with this, they'll be on a schedule, they'll turn off. But what's great is that if a teacher wants to come in at night or on the weekend, they have that override ability to turn on the heat, and they would override for a couple hours and then turn right off again. A lot of our systems don't have that functionality right now. So we are proposing to put the system in based off of those things.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Mhm.
Ms. Dawson, comments?
No comments at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Swanson, comments?
Nothing additional. Thank you so much.
Ms. Swanson, comments?
Of course, of course. Okay, Matt Kelly, I just found the smallest typo on your page 283, and it referenced the board meeting was on March 3rd, but it was on March 4th.
Okay.
And that's just almost not worth mentioning, but I do like things to be accurate. Okay, and so I was going through your item, and I did want to just ask you, it looks like there was 9 recommended modifications to the HVAC system, and where are we with those 9? Is this the last of the 9 that needs to be taken care of?
Yeah, it is the last of the 9 that has to be taken care of. I think that's what we reported out to during that HVAC update, which this was the last one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's perfect. I just wanted to confirm that's all I got for you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Beth.
You're unmuted, Beth. Try again. Okay, Beth, you're unmuted again.
Talking. Can you hear me?
There you go. Now you're on.
Good. Just a quick comment, and maybe Director Kelly just mentioned this, but is this being publicized in terms of, getting this out to parents and the rest of the community? It's a good thing that's happening, and it'd be good for what you are telling us now would be really good for more than just whoever's watching this to hear. That's all.
I'm quite sorry. I cannot hear you, Beth.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
She was asking if we're publicizing this other than just here at the board meeting.
Publicizing what? Changing the thermostats?
The work that we're doing with Measure D. Just showcasing it. I'm suspecting.
Yes, showcasing it, promoting yourselves here. promoting what you're doing with the COVID money. It's important to get that out to the community.
Yeah. So we have a communications plan, and I've been working with Mandy and with Lori, and putting together how that first newsletter is going to go out. You'll start seeing monthly newsletters go out in the district newsletter. There will be a link in there that Mandy will send out that will take you back to the website that will start updating all of our projects that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other member of the public, we'll bring it back to the board. Any further questions?
Not at this time. I move that we accept other people. No, okay, I move that we accept contract for services with IMS.Inc.
I'll second.
Motion's made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Path,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Passes 4-0. Thank you all very much. We move on to action discussion J. This is a board meeting calendar, future meetings. Dr. Porras, do you have changes?
There are no changes recommended at this time, Mr. President, so we do not need to take action unless a trustee would like to add something at this time.
Well, we are changing the last meeting. It will not be virtual. We'll be at the DO. That is June 17th. So we should be ready to roll.
And we'll have the recording, the option so people can see it at home by then.
We should. Dr. Porras, I think Jonathan is setting up now, correct, for zooming out?
Well, I'll ask Mr. Mejia to chime in on that if you like.
Please.
So all the equipment has been ordered. I touched base with our vendor for that today. I'm trying to find out exact days of delivery so that can be set up. And I'll be happy to update the board as soon as I am completely sure as to what day we will receive equipment so we can start putting it in place.
Mr. Mejia, do you believe any of it will be more than 2 months away?
I don't think it'll be that far out, but I wouldn't, with all the technology that's on back order right now, it would be hard to pinpoint.
Well, we can unschedule it, but I would like to make a change that lists the district office. So board, if you disagree, that's fine too. We don't have to do that, but.
I have a comment, or I have a question,
Yes.
if that's all right. My question is, and I just wanted to be really clear, that when we go back in person and we're investing all this money to broadcast the meetings virtually, my expectation in that is that there will still be an opportunity for the public or staff who are at home to interact with our meeting.
That is correct.
Is that also, yeah, I just really want to make sure
Yes,
we're not going to lose that component.
that is correct.
Okay. That is all I have. I'll make a motion to, I guess, make a motion on John Path's recommendation to have the, no, wait a second. Do I have to make a motion on this? You tell me, John Path.
We do ultimately have to have a motion, but I'll go around. Brian, any comment?
Nothing further. No, thank you.
Okay, Christy.
No, thanks.
Okay, Dr. Porras, before I force the issue here.
No, go ahead. All yours.
I'd like to move, we make a change to the last meeting and put it back at the DO.
I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Path,
Aye.
trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Going to COVID-19 relief funding amounts. This is Ms. Chinbendiv. This is a discussion item only. as she walks through what she has presented to us numerous times in verbally, but we'll go through in more detail. Ms. Chinbendib.
Thank you, President Paff. Would you like me to do the presentation or to just briefly go over and ask for questions?
I think please go through your presentation as you wish.
Okay. The board has asked to take a look at the funds that generally consider or call as care funds. Obviously, the care funds, they have the funds are into many specific pots of funds or bucket of sources from either the state or federal government. So since the governor declared emergency under Executive Order N2620 on March 13, with the goals listed on the cover page, that primarily to continue our high quality educational opportunities and also provide school meals and also basically supervision of students during ordinary school hours. And of course, continue to pay our employees, to pay our school districts employee and county or other entity employees. It comes with funding. At the same time, when the government did that, the federal government also did that, which is called generally called care funds. This is what we share right now is as of March 23rd, is a little bit over a year since the date that was declared a COVID-19 crisis. And obviously the funding have arrived at different phases. And also we have drastically actually quickly spent down a lot of these funds. So the amount that you see here, and I will quickly update you where we are, but a lot of them have been already completely spent and reported and filed complete to the federal and the state governments. The first one is Senate Bill 117. This is probably the first phase of money that came to LEAs, primarily for PPE, personal protective equipment. And I informed that that the school district can use for buying to procuring the various things that were listed here. I did not list the allowable spending here, but all the things that we purchased are really allowed under the guidance or under the rules set by each of these funding sources. If anything that we have a little bit could be interpreting differently, we always check with independent auditors, because at the end of the day, they will be the ones that to have certified this so that we can get a cash. Now, I talk about various times that a lot of this, we have not received the money, and especially the funds from the federal government has been always in the pattern where school districts do not get the cash. And when we check in with CDE, they say is generally their rule. They will not give out the cash yet. Even the state CDE themselves, they say they have not received the money from the federal government. So even as a pass-through agency, they have not received the money yet. So this is not when we said amount received, it's just appropriation or allocation, not necessarily the cash we received. Again, first one is we completely spend on this money. What was purchased, again, is hand sanitizer, sanitizing equipment, and mask, face mask and KN95. Really, this first part of the funds came very handy, because if you recall that time, although when this virus became known, it was not talked so much about airborne, it's just hand washing and such. So we've been really utilizing the funds to buy equipment and sanitizer, and later on with face masks, when it was more known about how we can prevent the spread of the virus. The second part of money is combined into a couple of resources. When I put down here resource, because it's critical for us to track it. This is how we report that in the financial statement, and it's how we report to the county and the state. Also the auditors, especially when the federal funds, they have what we call a single audit. If it exceeds a threshold, a certain amount, it triggers a major audit. So there's a lot of rules around this where we have to not only to make sure that we purchase something that's allowed, but also how we categorize and how we compile the information in our financial system. Within this $104,689, that has been changed slightly, a little bit up. It's only a few $100s, but again, like this one says, reported in March, but since then it's been adjusted. This is just the areas that we purchased for the $33,021. Again, it's mostly in PPEs, a little bit more in the areas of storage and plexiglass. The next bucket is group we spend, we're helping students, hotspots, and licensing and such. As we know, the Zoom licensing when this was first started, we did not have enough. So we had to procure to purchase more. And of course, at that time, Zoom was really in high demand. And it's good that we knew a little bit ahead of time. We really met our goal to work with the vendors and to secure this number of licensing allowable. The next category that we spend is on about substitute hours. When we went into distance learning, we also need, especially with the targeted groups, we also need extra help. So this is where we spend some of the funds on, especially the middle and the high schools. And tech support also for Chromebook distribution. As we know, we purchased 2,000 units of Chromebooks. So we need extra help in distributing and also processing the devices. So when we said this one is encumbered, but not yet spent, there's 3210 is already spent, completely spent. The report has been filed since then as well. The timing of the reporting of any of these funds is very unpredictable, so to speak. They would say, the state would say, most of the time they would say, okay, Friday, for example, we receive the report by, let's say tomorrow, or sometimes they would get a little bit earlier, like by today, and we will have until Tuesday. That means you have weekends to work on that as well, inclusive of the weekends. They count that as work hours for us to report this reports. And they're very vigilant. It's something that we do not report of LEA's misses on the timeline. We may or may not, we get delay in the cash distribution, because then you'll be pushed into the next batch or the batch after, depending on how many school districts have met the timeline to report. So anyway, I digress a little bit talking about the reporting. The next group is called the learning loss mitigation. This is, again, this is very specific, even though it's learning loss, but this is a federal part of it, a distribution based on LCFF, supplemental concentration, even though we're not LCFF school district, but in terms of, reporting, the state still has data. Had we not basic school district, what would be the LCFF distribution and supplemental concentration? Because in LCAP, we also have to report this level. That is actually part of our basic ed money, not from the state, but we still have to follow the formula. So from there, the state distributes the funds based on this. And we on this, for this bucket, we get $704,000, $412. And these are the areas, if you recall in the beginning, before we started school, we actually spent quite a bit of money in terms of preparing our schools to provide distance learning area. So this, in terms of providing the training, we contracted with University of Phoenix, and also we pay also extra days for our staff. Certificated staff, including support certificated staff like librarians and counselors, and this is the cost. And also we have planning days in addition to additional work days for the staff, entire certificated staff. We also have 5, if I remember, 5 planning days, which group together with existing days in the contract, but also extra days in August to prepare schools for for distance learning. There's also lunch vouchers. The board approved a program where we contracted out with a couple of restaurants, Director Lip, work with that, and so that families could really present vouchers and get meals from these restaurants, and this is the cost. And this was for the month of July. So there was continuous provision for families to have meals, free meals. And then PPE and technology license, this is actually continuous, the funds for us to provide continuous service. Laptops. And then the other group, because of the higher amount, as you can see, than the other previous groups, we supported with BSRP transition into distance learning. We discontinue before and after school program, but we repurposed staff into supporting distance learning. So they could be becoming instructional aides. So their salaries were paid by this care funds. And then something with campus supervisors, any other classified support groups that we could repurpose. That's what we did, directed their help to classroom support instead. And then just more of the technology support needs. The next group, again, is called learning loss mitigation, but it's based on, again, a different formula. This is based on Proposition 98 portion. This code denotes that it's coming from the state, even though it's a learning loss, where the state, when they receive the money from the federal government, they repurpose, reroute it, redistribute the funds to all the LEAs for additional help, which is very, very much appreciated. So this is the areas that were spent on, like enhanced learning support, Seesaw, different techniques, different softwares to support students and staff. And again, devices, I wouldn't go into that. This is different devices. We work very closely with Director Binder and Mr. Mihir in procuring this. I think we're proud to say, and really proud of the technology department's work, that we did not have really a gap in really providing the number of hotspots. If you recall, during that time, a lot of competitive needs from surrounding school districts and surrounding agencies as well. And we were fast enough to know this would be coming, to have contract services and also purchase orders ready to procure the spots and provide the needs. Continuing to that, PPE, the audit fee, because we had to provide specialized tracking of instructional minutes, synchronous and asynchronous days. So we had to incur this additional cost, and obviously it can be paid by the care funds and substitute costs. The next group, again, is learning loss again, but this is called Governor's Emergency Education Fund, or we call it GEAR Fund. And this is the amount. At this time period, I believe it's about 60 or 80, 70% has already been spent. As you can see in here, at the time we reported there's this $103,000 to be spent, no longer the case. Let's see. Okay, so this is what we call loosely the first round of care funds. Now we go into the second round of care funds. This for us is a little bit over $548,000, and this, that we are working with different groups to within, especially within the administrative team, to look at different areas where we can spend the money wisely, well, and also effectively. Now, we continue this part here. One of the recommendations for us is to continue paying the BSRP, because short of that, obviously, general fund will have to pick that up. Because earlier on, we look at the goals of the governors continue paying for existing staff. Is obviously for a different purpose, but still they have been very helpful in helping our students and our teachers. We use that part of this money to, earlier we talked about the board meetings at conference room, you know, how I talk about interactive. Obviously, the nexus where we can spend the money from this bucket is because had it not been for COVID, we wouldn't have to install the devices and the need to do this. But this is something that we could tie that on and it would be allowable use of the funds. And the third group is the CARE funds. It's called American Rescue Plan. The president has approved that and has already allowed the funds to be distributed. And our share is $1,220,947. And of course, this is conditions. Now, this is the part that we're going to start really working this because it has a lot of conditions and how we can spend and when it has to be spent by. The next, together with the CARE funds, phase 3 is the other group. The fourth group is Assembly Bill 86. This is also very tightly together in terms of guidance requirements. So this is generally, we just put down here the conditions, what we need to spend. The first part of AB 86, this is for the in-person instruction because we had to start, LEAs have to start between April 1st and May 15. Actually by April 1st, if not, there would be a reduction of 1%. We do not know exactly yet what's going to be the reduction to PGUSD, but this is the gross estimate amount. So obviously amount will be less than this. Now the AB 86, there is in-person instruction. The next part is the expanded learning opportunity grants. And there are two parts within this part here. So the 85%, I think the critical element of this, 85% of the funds must be for activities provided in person. And then up to 15% may be only used for services or activities for doing remotely, as in. So I think that's it. This is what we have now, and we're open for any questions.
Okay, I reviewed this earlier. I have no questions on this, so we will start with Ms. Swanson. I think
Hi, turning on my camera. I was having a snack while Sean was talking. I have a question. I know that we have some learning loss money in there, and I was curious about the timing on when, like, is there a time frame that we have to spend certain funds? I'm asking because I'm thinking if we did want to do some sort of summer school at the end of next school year to remedy learning loss, would we be able to do that? That's why I'm asking about the timing.
Right. Because this just came right freshly, if I recall, when we prepared this document. And since then, I've shared with the administrative team. If I recall, this one is actually has until August 2022 to be spent.
Okay. And that's all I have for questions. Thank you so much, Song.
And Ms. Dawson.
As always, Song, I appreciate your breakdown and it's easy to understand. Thank you so much for your ongoing good work.
Mr. Swanson.
Well, I did manage to move to a place where I actually had some connectivity again, so I missed it. I saw the audio or the visual and I lost audio for about 5 minutes. It was just kind of nutty. So I'm sorry about that, but I don't really have any questions. I was trying to follow along as best as I could. Is this available? Because this is not part of the packet. Is that correct?
No, it is part of the packet.
Oh, it is. All right. So, all right.
Yes.
I will just look back at the packet if I have any other questions then. So I'm sure it's fine. And yeah, if this is not additional to the packet, then I'm good. Okay.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment. Song, could you unshare your screen? I can't see.
Oh, sorry.
No apology. It's just that's how the technology works. Thank you.
Something that.
No.
Okay. I see no hands raised. With that, that is a discussion only. Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you for keeping track of all of our ESSER funds and the CARES funds. And at the end of this, let's hope we, we come out at least break even, which I think is the end game for the year. So,
Mr. President, if I may, I won't take more than a minute, I promise. I just wanted to acknowledge and appreciate Assistant Superintendent Jim Ben-Dib for this work. I mean, it is just, the presentation itself belies how much work took place to get this done. And she's super and is just taking the time to really get the information right. She did most of this work on her own in regards to putting it together so it was presentable. And we're so very lucky to have her here. And this is a great demonstration as to why, because we're able to show the public how we're spending, we're being accountable for what we do. And she's always got her mind directly on how we're serving our kids best. And I think it's reflected in the way that these funds are expended. So I just want to appreciate her presentation and the work that she does in our district every single day.
Thank you, Dr. Forrest. With that, we move on to future agenda items. We'll start with Mr. Swanson.
I don't have anything to add. I know that we've been talking about the resolution supporting people of, inadvertently highlighted everything there, people of Asian ancestry. And over the last couple of weeks, I've just been too buried in other things to be able to address it. So I'm hoping that we can bring that back at the next meeting. And I think we should aim for that.
Thank you. Ms. Swanson.
Thanks, John. And to your point, Brian, I was actually, I'm going to send you an email, and then I think it'll be better to do it on the phone, and we can set a time and we can work together on it.
All right,
and then as far as future agenda items, we did have a public comment tonight about board policy to possibly help recruit and train new board members, kind of with, it sounded like it was an idea to kind of do that through an equity lens. And so I don't think that's an immediate, and I think John Paff, you may have said this as well, it's not an immediate item because we do have some, we're really focused on getting back to school, but I would like to mention that. And I guess, gosh, I don't know if necessarily I want to put that on as a future agenda item, or just make a recommendation to the member of the public to email Ralph in writing about that. But I do like that idea.
I think that is a good idea to ask former trustee Shamus to do that. Also, it should be rolled in. It doesn't have to be, but we should be looking at the policy as we go into districts. So, right, see if there's other changes. So one of the things is to make sure that we have sufficient public outreach in those districts. So that's a good plan. I think you're right. Let's have ask Beth to send in information, or I'll reach out to her. So.
Okay, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Ms. Swanson, Trustee Walton was looking at affordable housing, and I think this is something you've expressed an interest in the past. I'm not sure where I'm going with that. He was going to MBEP meetings, I believe. If it's something you'd like to pick up, please do let me know. It is on there, look at affordable housing, but from our perspective, I think we do it. Now, I'm not asking that you absolutely do it. I'm just saying if it's something that interested you and you wanted to follow up, great. Otherwise, maybe we can figure something else out too. So it's no big deal. So.
I'm glad you brought it up. It actually did cross my mind because we are going to be shuffling some responsibilities around. Right now, my focus is on the advocacy committee and kind of developing that. So if another trustee would like to pick up the affordable housing committee, I would like to pass on it for now.
I understood. Okay, so we'll work on that separately. Thanks.
Okay.
With
no
that,
problem.
any public comment? No, wait, did I talk to Christy already? Christy,
Yeah.
You did, thank you.
sorry.
You already out, talk to me.
Public requests, information. Okay. Seeing none, we have no changes for future agenda. And with that, the open session is adjourned, but board, we have agreed we would go back into closed session. I would like to reopen that if we could move into closed session again to talk about goals and evaluation. Jonathan, if you could move us in, but board, I'd also like to take 5 minutes, please. Is that okay?
Yes.
Give us a time, so 9:30.
9:36.
All right,
And we're still going to be done by 10. So
Yes.
thank you.
thank you for a good meeting, everyone.
See you in 5.